This verse is the favorite weapon of Islam haters. They say Islam allows rape, promotes slavery, and justifies abusing women. And guess what? David Wood and Rashid are back, repeating the same old lies, twisting Surah 424 to shock and mislead. But here's what they don't want you to know. The verse has a deep historical context, strict ethical rules, and Prophet Muhammad's own actions say otherwise. If you want truth, not propaganda, stay till the end. Let's hear their claims first. Then we expose the deception with facts.
Surah 424 also prohibited our women already married, except those whom your right hands possess. What's this about? Surah 424.
Her right hand possessed as slave girls.
Yeah.
You can have slave girls as many as you want, even 1,000, even 2,000, even 3,000. All the caliphs through history, they had hundreds of slave girls, and that's allowed by the Quran. And if it was not up to the Western countries, we could have been, until today, in Muslim countries, we have slave girls. Actually, it's the West who forced Muslim countries to stop that.
In this battle, they conquered and they captured the men and the women. And Muhammad's followers were worried, hey, are we allowed to have sex with our captives? We know, according to the Quran, we're allowed to have sex with our captives. But these women are married. We caught their husbands too. What are we supposed to do? And that's when Allah reveals, yes, married women are prohibited, except those your right hands possess.
They quote Surah An-Nisa 424. Also forbidden to you are married women, except those whom your right hands possess. Out of context, it sounds troubling. But what are they ignoring? This verse was revealed after the Battle of Autas, a battle where Muslim women were captured after their husbands had been killed in combat. The verse came down to address what to do in such exceptional wartime situations. It did not give men permission to go around taking women against their will, nor did it allow the violation of the sanctity of marriage. The phrase, those whom your right hands possess, was a legal term for prisoners of war, not a license for rape. It was about protection, integration, and rehabilitation, not exploitation. This is key. This phrase doesn't mean sex slaves, as David and Rashid claim. In pre-modern warfare, captives were part of the spoils of war in every civilization, Roman, Persian, Christian, and Arab. Islam didn't introduce slavery. It began the process of ending it. What did Islam do that no other system did at that time? Gave captives rights, forbade forced intimacy, encouraged marrying them to give them full legal status, allowed them to buy their freedom, mukataba, ordered kindness and humane treatment. As Ibn Kathir explains, this refers to those taken captive during war who have been separated from their disbelieving husbands. After their iddah, they become permissible to the captors, but only under the rules of Islamic law. So again, this is not about license. It's about restrictions in a time where there were none. This verse was revealed after the Battle of Autas, where Muslim fighters had questions. Can we marry or have relations with captured women whose polytheist husbands had died in war? The Prophet, peace be upon him, waited for revelation, and then came this verse. But what's critical is what followed. According to authentic Hadith in Sahih Muslim, we were concerned about intercourse with captive women who had husbands, so the Prophet gave us permission after revelation was revealed. That permission was not for random sex. It was about creating social responsibility through legal contracts and ethical treatment. David and Rashid always ignore this. Prophet Muhammad never allowed abuse or rape. In fact, he taught, whoever slaps his slave or beats him, the expiation is to free him. Feed them with what you eat. Clothe them with what you wear. Do not burden them with what they cannot handle. In another narration, a man was with his slave girl and did not do justice with her, and the Prophet said, "Fear Allah regarding them, for Allah has made you responsible." So, where are these supposed permissions for abuse? They don't exist, except in the twisted minds of critics. Yes, slavery existed, as it did in the entire world. Rashid claims Muslims had thousands of slave women, but what he doesn't mention is Islam regulated and limited slavery. Islam strongly encouraged freeing slaves. It's considered an act of great virtue in the Quran. And what can make you know what is the uphill path? It is the freeing of a slave. Quran 90:12-13. Also, Muslim rulers who accumulated concubines often did so against Islamic values. We don't judge Islam by the actions of kings, just like we don't judge Christianity by the atrocities of crusaders. Rashid says, if the West didn't intervene, we'd still have slaves. That's either ignorance or deception. The Western world ran the most brutal slave systems in history, including the transatlantic slave trade, where millions were captured and tortured. Islam, 1,000 years earlier, had already set rules for humane treatment, opened doors for freedom, prohibited racial superiority, made freeing slaves a path to paradise. In fact, the first person to embrace Islam, Bilal ibn Rabah, was a black slave freed and honored by the Prophet himself. David and Rashid's entire argument is built on emotional manipulation, mistranslation, and historical amnesia. The truth: Islam regulated, humanized, and ultimately aimed to eliminate slavery. It gave dignity to those the world considered worthless. It demanded responsibility and compassion. It was not about exploiting captives, it was about ending their suffering. So, don't fall for viral clips and half-truths. Go to the sources, learn the context, study the life of the Prophet. Because truth doesn't fear scrutiny, lies do. If you found this video enlightening, share it with someone who has been misled. Like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more fact-based responses to those who twist Islam for hate. Assalamu alaikum.